Okay, so this is a review of some Algebra 1 stuff in the beginning. This is lesson 4.4. Oops. Lesson 4.4. This is called long and synthetic division. What do you think of, school appropriately, when you think of synthetic? What does synthetic mean? Not real, right? It means fake. So we're going to do something that looks a little bit like fake division. Okay? Do you guys remember long division from elementary or from Mr. Edwards' math class? When you had like 345 divided by 27. You guys remember doing that? Okay. So we're going to do that a little bit today, but it's not going to be the end of the world. You're going to be just fine. So if we look at number 1, it's an example. We talked about this already. We've done this review. We're dividing each of these terms by 3x squared. So an easy way to do this might be to write it over each one, 6x to the 4th over 3x squared minus 15x squared over 3x squared. For me, that helps to visualize it instead of just dividing it all within the problem. So 6x to the 4th divided by 3x squared. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and I have how many variables left? X squared. 15 divided by 3 is 5. My x squareds cancel, right? And then, why is my thing not catching up? There we go. And then 3x squared over 3x squared is what? Ben? 1. Can I simplify this? Okay, so 2x squared minus 4. Yes.
For the GCF, which was actually incorrect, shockingly.
Okay. Oh, so you pulled the 3x squared out, you divided it out? But you should still have 2x.
I've still got it.
Okay.
So even if we
But
did
it divides up.
GCF, we would have gotten the same answer?
Well, GCF means if you were factoring it, then you would still have your 3x squared on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's factoring. We're dividing, which means we're completely taking it out of the problem. Okay?
That's what I did, but I canceled the 3x squared.
Okay, let's do example 3, number 3. Now it says use factoring to divide the polynomials below. Okay, so this is not new to us. This is the same thing that we did yesterday. W squared minus 7w plus 10. We can x factor that. So when we x factor that, we see what two numbers multiply to get 10. 10, and add to get a negative 7. Negative 2 and negative 5. Right? They both need to be negative. Take it out. All the way out. Both of them. Okay, so on the top, we have w minus 2, w minus 5. On the bottom, we have w minus 5. And then what did we learn yesterday that we can do? Okay, so we're going to cancel w minus 5 and w minus 5. W minus 2. That made his V's last night. Okay, question about that. That's old news, right? We've been doing that. We know how to do that part. But now the problem is, what if you can't factor it? Okay, so if you look at number 5, and we tried to factor number 5, well, 43 is a prime number, so you're not going to be able to find factors of 43 because it's a prime number. So that's not going to work out so well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called long division. Okay? And so it looks very similar to what you might think of long division. All right? But we're going to take it a step at a time because sometimes this can get a little bit hairy, and if you don't remember long division, then this might be a little bit tricky. Okay? So the rule is that the first parentheses, whatever you're dividing into, this big thing right here, goes underneath the big box. Okay, so we call that the dividend. So I'm going to set up x squared plus 3x minus 43. Give yourself room to write above it. And then x plus 8 is the divisor. So where do you think x plus 8 is going to go? Outside to the front. Okay? X plus 8. All right, question so far about the setup. Pretty easy. All right? So, this is how this starts. What do you need to multiply x by to get x squared? We're going to kind of forget about this 8 for the time being. Okay, so you don't need to put a box on it because that's just going to confuse you. I'm just telling you we're going to forget about the 8 for a minute. So what do I need to multiply x by to make it x squared? X. Now, it's just x, not x to the second power, which means it needs to go in the x column. Do you see how this whole column is, there's an x here, there's an x here. It's not x to the second power, it's just x. Okay, so it needs to follow in suit. All right, now I'm going to say to myself, x times x is what? Okay, so then it's going to go under the x squared. X times 8 is what? 8x. It's going to go underneath the x. Do you notice how these are all x's here? And these are all x squareds? You see how they're lined up like that? You should keep it like that, okay?
Yeah, but how are you coming along with this? I don't get it.
Okay, so it's gonna take a few minutes, and I want you just to you can either watch it or you can keep writing, but I want you just to watch for a few minutes, okay? Now, do you guys remember when you had something like this? If you had 25 divided by 4, it goes 6 times, right? And we would subtract here, right? You guys remember doing that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This was subtraction, okay? So over here, we're going to subtract the problem. So when I'm subtracting, I'm putting this whole thing in parentheses, which means what's going to happen to my signs? They're going to change. Okay? So x squared minus x squared, that's gone. Then what kind of an 8x is that really? It's really a negative 8x. So 3x minus 8x is what? Negative 5x. Okay. How do we keep going through the problem? What do you do next? Good. You're going to bring down the negative 43. Okay. Whenever you get to a pause moment like this, how do we keep going through the problem? We go back to the x out front. What do I have to multiply x by to get negative 5x? Negative 5. You guys okay with that? So then the negative 5 is going to go above the negative 5 group, or the constant group. Okay. Then we do this thing again. Negative 5 times x is what? Negative 5x. Negative 5 times 8 is negative 40.
Are we dividing or multiplying?
We're dividing, but part of division is multiplication. I'll show it to you in another form in just a minute. But then we remember we have to put this in parentheses and subtract it. So then what really happens to this negative 5x? Okay, and that cancels, right? Your first column should always cancel. And then what kind of a 40 is that? Positive 40. So negative 43 plus 40 is negative 3. Is there anything else to bring down? So this is a remainder. And in the past, the easy way was to do this, right? Remainder 3. But we're not going to do that anymore. Okay? So instead of that, if you look over here at this example I have, how else could we write 1 as a remainder? Do you guys remember? As a fraction, 1 over what? Nope. 1 over whatever this number is out here. 4. So when we write our remainder, we have minus 3 over, what did we divide by? What's the whole thing we divided by? Over x plus 8. Okay. This makes our final answer x minus 5 minus 3 over x plus 8. Okay. You're going to be fine. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to do it again. Crystal, you asked about multiplication. Watch. 25 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 25?
5 times?
6. And then we did 6 times 4 is what?
20.
4.
4. Right.
Then we subtract 1. But did you see I multiplied 6 times 4 to get the 24?
Well, yes, I get that, but I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not understanding how.
So that's the multiplication piece you were asking about.
But you basically put the x up above the x, and then you said, okay, let's just multiply these two. And I'm like,
Right.
Where are you multiplying them, and how?
That's why over here, when we have this, you have this 6, and we multiply 6 times 4. That's the process of long division.
How did you come? Did you just skip the x squared or something and go
Well,
to 3x?
Right, because x plus 8 goes into x squared, right? X times, correct? And so look over here. Didn't I just skip this 2? Do you see that? Same kind of concept. You're not really skipping the 2. You're leaving it as part of the 25. So let's do another example together. Okay. We're going to leave, where it says synthetic division, we're going to leave that part blank for right now. I want to show you another long division first before we go into synthetic. So go to the next page. All right, so let's go ahead and set this one up. We know where things go. Number 7, yep. Okay, so we have it set up, and this is how we start. What do we multiply n by to get 2n squared? Think about it before you shout it out. What do you have to multiply n by to get 2n squared? Lexi? 2n. Can we agree with that? 2n? Now, which column is that going to go above? The 16n, right? Because it's n to the first power. We didn't skip over this, Crystal. We had to decide, we multiply 2n times 2n squared. All right, so now when we multiply 2n times n, it gets multiplied by both of them. What's 2n times n? 2n squared, so that's going to go underneath the 2n squared. And then we have to do 2n times the negative 7, which is negative 14n. All right. Now what do we have to do? No. Subtract. Put this in parentheses and subtract. Be really careful about that. Okay. So the 2n squareds are going to cancel. But then what do you notice about this 14? What does it really become? Good, positive 14. So negative 16 plus 14n is negative 2n. Okay, now you're going to bring down the 19. Does anybody remember what we do now?
What does the negative 2n have but the n?
Well, kind of. Leanna, what were you going to say?
What she just said after I brought down my negative.
Okay, so what do you multiply n by to get negative 2n? Okay, a negative 2. Can you guys agree with that? Okay, so that's going to go above the 9. See if you can finish this one out. Okay, so we have our negative 2 over there, which means now we're going to have to go like this and like this. Okay, see if you can do it. Crystal, it might be helpful to write something down.
I can't follow this.
Yes, you can, have paper and stuff.
I'm trying to follow it.
Okay, so when I multiply negative 2 times n, I get negative 2n. Negative 2 times negative 7 is a positive 14.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Before we go on, do you do the same thing with that negative? I have one question about that also.
Sure.
All right. Well, do you do the same thing with that negative? Do you pull it down to your second tier?
Okay, like this negative right here,
No. Where you crossed it out at first
up here.
in your parentheses. Yes.
So I subtracted 2n because this became a negative 2n, right?
I'm just wondering where the negative came from.
Okay, because the process is always subtraction, right? If you think about division, remember if you did like 25 divided by 4, 24, and then we always subtract here, right? That's the process. So it's always going to be subtraction, yes. Okay. All right, so then I have my minus on the outside, all right, which makes that negative 2n become what? Positive. And then the 14 really becomes negative, so I'm left with a positive 5. Okay, so how are we going to write this remainder? Mitchell?
You go 5 over.
Okay, so I have 2n minus 2 plus 5 over
This is the n minus 7.
the n minus 7. Good. Don't combine the negative 2 and the 5. The 5 is a remainder, so it gets its own piece of information. Okay. All right, let's do one more before we learn about synthetic, because you're really going to like synthetic. No, you really are going to like it, which is why I showed it to you second, because if I showed it to you first, you wouldn't do long division. Okay, let's do number 10 with long division. Oh, man. Okay, on number 10, what do you notice? It says x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, and then it goes to what? Just x. So sometimes we have to double check to make, always you should, double check to make sure you're not missing a term in the dividend. You guys can agree we don't have an x squared term, right? So when you are missing a term, you always put a 0 in for the missing term because it needs a placeholder. It has to be there. Okay? So make yourself a note over here on the left in the space provided. Use 0 as a placeholder for missing terms. And sometimes you might have 2 missing terms. So we're going to use 0 as a placeholder for any missing terms. And it's x squared, so we're going to make it be 0x squared. Okay, so let's start this one. Go ahead and set it up as a long division problem.
Plus or minus, where it goes.
You can put a plus. It's not going to matter. It's 0, right?
Apparently 0 can't be negative, so.
You said x squared, 0x squared?
Yep, 0x squared. No, so, okay. So I have my x minus 8. 8x to the 4th minus 64x cubed plus 0x squared plus 3x minus 28. If you have big handwriting, you're probably going to want to make it a little bit smaller, and you're going to run all the way out of the box to the bottom because this is a longer problem. If you need to take a minute and you want to write it on another sheet of paper, you're welcome to do that. No, we're going to come back and use number 9 for synthetic. You should have room. Just try to keep things small. Okay? All right, so everyone notices we have a 0 in here for our missing term. Okay, you have to have it there. Otherwise, your answer is not going to come out right. Okay, so how do we start this process?
What can give you 8x?
Okay, what do you multiply? Let's say it together so that you know. What do you multiply x by to get
To get
8x to the 4th? Let's try it again. What do you multiply x by to get 8x to the 4th? What's the answer?
8x cubed.
8x cubed, right? How are you going to make x become 8x to the 4th? You're going to make it 8x cubed. Where are we going to put that 8x cubed? Good, above the 64.
Like, so you're basically you're basically trying to figure out. Never mind. It's just like,
Okay, so then remember every time we get a number up here, we're going to multiply times the x, right? If you need to draw the arrows to help you remember, that's totally fine to do that, so that you don't get lost with what you're doing. Do it one at a time. So 8x cubed times x gives you 8x to the 4th. Then I'm going to draw a second arrow. Don't draw both arrows at the same time because then you'll lose sight of what you're doing. 8x cubed times negative 8 is negative 64x cubed.
why are we determining what goes into 8x4 to begin with?
I did. I said, what do I have to multiply x by to get 8x to the 4th?
So you're so
Oh, and then them two will cancel, won't they?
Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to draw our subtraction, right? Remember, it's a subtraction sign.
turn.
Okay, so this cancels, but this becomes a plus, right? Plus 64, and that also cancels. So but we still have to write 0 down. So you have 0x cubed.
No, why do you have to write down 0?
Because if not, you're done with your problem.
I thought it was 0.
It will look like you're done with the problem,
And then you're
and then you won't be able to keep going. So you have to just keep putting 0. Leanna?
How'd you get 0x cubed?
Because negative 64 plus 64 is 0.
Oh, I thought you was bringing down your 0x squared.
No, we're still at 0x
Yeah,
cubed.
that's why I was-
Okay, how do we keep going through the problem? They bring down 0x squared. Now this seems a little odd, right, to have zeros there. So just listen carefully. Whoops. What are you going to multiply? Remember, we always go back to that. What are you going to multiply x by to get 0x cubed?
Negative
0x.
0.
0.
Okay, but it's already x cubed, so we want it to, and we already have an x, so it's going to be 0x squared. So we're going to put a plus 0x squared up here. And then if we were to multiply 0x squared times each of those, we're getting 0 and 0, right? It's going to be 0. But for the sake of the placeholders, let's go ahead and use the exponents. So 0x squared times 0x squared times x is 0x cubed. It's really 0, but we're going to put the x cubed there. And then 0x squared times 8 is still 0x squared. What do we have to do here? Turn them subtraction. In this case, it's not going to matter, right? 0 and 0 cancel. I do have to bring something down from the x squared column, though. What is it going to be down from the x squared column? Just 0, right? 0x squared. Okay, how do we keep moving through the problem? All right, good. Bring the 3x down. If you need to draw arrows so that you're seeing what you're doing, that's fine. Okay, what's the question?
What can x go in?
Nope. Somebody besides Mitchell and Leanna.
What does x have that,
What do you have to multiply? Okay, what do you have to multiply x by to get what?
3x?
Nope, not 3x. It's whatever the first one is, 0x squared. And what are we going to do again on this one?
0x squared?
Not x squared. We already have the x squared filled, right?
Oh,
0x. Guys, here's the hint. Look up at the top row, please. Whatever column you're ready for next, that's going to be what variable you use. Okay, it's always just going to go down the line. Okay, 0x. And we know again, 0x is going to give us 0x squared and 0x. We're almost there. Now we finally are going to get a number. What drops down? Crystal, did you just answer?
It's the only part of this division.
All
problem I
right. 3x, and then what else comes down? Okay, this is our last one. Negative 28. See if you can finish it. So you're asking yourself, what do you multiply x by? Good. Yeah, to get 3x, whatever that first one is. Yep. So what would you say, Cade? What do you multiply x by to get 3x? Yeah, that's it. Yep. And so that's going to go up top. Nope, just positive 3. It's a positive 3 there, right? So you're trying to make the signs match. So you'll say a positive 3. Okay? Keep going. This is when you do your arrow thing. Are you guys getting a remainder of negative 4? Okay. Good. Negative 4 over x minus 8. Now, here's the thing. When you write your answer, if you guys have 0, like this one and this one, you don't need to write them in your answer. Okay, so you need to show them in your work. But if you can write it just like this. 8x cubed. We're going to skip over those two because they're 0. Plus 3 minus 4 over x minus 8. So if you get answers that are 0 in your answer, you don't have to write 0x squared. I won't count it wrong, but you don't have to write it there.
Is there a way that you can do it without the zeros?
No.
I understand you have to.
No, because they need a placeholder. You need to talk about every single place. So x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x to the squared. You have to have an x squared to do the problem. Okay?